Hello, Trail Seeker, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Learn True Health podcast. Today, we have with us an amazing guest. He's been an athletic coach to both professional and non-professional athletes for over 25 years. And early on, as he was helping athletes to become the healthiest and best versions of themselves, he noticed that EMF exposure affected them. And a lot of athletes will wear these smartwatches and devices to monitor their heart rate and monitor their vitals and everything that they can see to squeeze out more efficiency in themselves as the athletic machine that they're creating themselves to be. And he noticed that all this EMF exposure to cell phones and electric vehicles and all the devices they were wearing was harming them, was actually suppressing their body's functions. We talk about some of these suppressions like that our mitochondria, the part of our cell that makes cellular energy, is affected by exposure to EMF. So my guest today discovered a natural solution that really rocks. I gotta tell you, I've had a lot of fun with the puns on this one. This is a technology that's 100% natural. I call it a technology because we're using it and applying it in a certain way that would be considered a technology in that we're using something from nature, applying it to help solve a problem. And this problem is exposure to EMF and also helping us to ground. I have several episodes with experts and doctors talking about the excess electrons that build up in our body when we don't spend time touching the earth. A lot of us do not touch the earth. Can you remember the last time you had your feet or your hands right on soil? We don't. We wear insulated shoes and drive around in insulated cars and live in insulated homes, and we very rarely touch the earth. So we build up these excess electrons in our body that are doing oxidative stress and free radical damage to us, increasing inflammation throughout the body. And using this all-natural solution today that we're discussing, you'll be able to protect yourself and your family from electromagnetic radiation and help them to release these excess electrons safely, healthfully. I love that it's 100% natural and is super easy. You don't need electricity. You don't need to plug it into something. And it protects you. It protects you from the EMF from cell phones, from computers, from Wi-Fi, and at the same time is helping us do earthing or grounding. If you want to check it out and get it for yourself, you can go to learntruehealth.com/EMFrocks. That's learntruehealth.com/EMFrocks. I got us a discount, so you can use coupon code LTH. I love it when my guests do that for us. A few episodes ago, I had announced that I was writing a book, and I am still writing the book. It's taking a bit longer than expected. Unfortunately, I was hoping it would be published for Christmas, but my ultimate goal was that it would be published before January so that everyone could use it for their New Year's resolutions. This has been such an exciting journey. I've loved writing this book because it's all the advice that I help my clients with, all the foundations of health done in a really fun way that helps you to build health habits for the rest of your life. So keep an eye out, keep an ear out, listening for updates on that. It's going to be available very soon. I'm really, really looking forward to sharing it with you guys. Awesome. Make sure you join the Learn True Health Facebook group for updates. You can also go to learntruehealth.com and join the email list. I send out just a few emails a month. I promise not to spam you. I'll definitely be sending out an email about my book, so be sure to check that out as well. Thank you so much for being a listener and sharing this podcast with those you care about. If you have an athlete in your life, if you have someone in your life who is worried about EMF exposure or someone who's in pain or has problems sleeping, this helps with so many of these issues. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you guys how you experience this product and how it helps you in your life. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your day and enjoy today's interview. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 515. I am so excited for today's guest. We have a really interesting interview ahead of us. I just have a feeling we're going to have a lot of fun today. Justin Frandson, who is an athleticism performance coach, an author, and a waterman, he's introduced me to something that I did not think it was going to go this way. So just absolutely did not. When I first was introduced to Justin a few weeks ago by a mutual friend that in the colleague that I highly respect, um, I was incredibly skeptical. I have to admit, when I read the email and looked into you, and I think it actually took me a week to reply because I sat with it and I'm like, this, like my it's so out there, right? But then, I'm the biggest open-minded skeptic. So the skeptic took over and it's like, no, this just sounds crazy. And then the open-mindedness started melting in and it's like, but what if it's true? What if it is true? And I'm like, okay, fine. It doesn't hurt to have a conversation. So I told you in the email, I was like, I'm a big open-minded skeptic, and I gotta tell you, like, the little alarm bells are going off in my head, like, this sounds whack job, right? But you said there's a lot of science and studies behind it, and also I really trust the person that introduced us, and they wouldn't have introduced me to something that was a scam, right? Or something that was crazy. But coming into this whole conversation, I'm like, how am I gonna introduce this to my listeners? Like, "Hey, I want you to go buy this bag of rocks. And this isn't woo-woo. This isn't like crystal licking. This is not, I mean, and I love my new age brothers and sisters. But this isn't that. This is not, I'm not asking you to, be new age. This is grounded in a ton of science and studies. So anyway, you sent me this bag of rocks. It is actually there's a purpose behind it. It's to help with EMF. And we opened the box and we grabbed the bag, and I felt like, and the closest thing I could describe is I felt like I was in the middle of a thunderstorm, like the electricity in the air changed, and I got lightheaded, but not in a bad way. Like, I wouldn't have fallen over or anything. I just noticed, like, wow, I'm feeling something. I'm feeling something incredible. Like, if you had hooked me up to a device and turned on like a TENS unit, but over my whole body, I would have believed you. But all I was doing was holding this bag of rocks. And I'm like, this is wild. I'm feeling this. And I sat down, I drank some water, and that almost like just before lightheaded feeling went away. But it left the air charged and I felt more energized. And what I noticed almost immediately is I felt highly motivated, and I actually ran back upstairs, got in the office and started working. And I was just like, oh, I'm so motivated. I feel so good. And I thought that's really interesting because I didn't do much with the bag other than like hold it for a minute and like talk about it with my husband. And I'll get to what I did wrong next, but I want to tell you the rest of the story. I haven't even let you say hi. So, by the way, welcome to the show, Justin.
Oh, Ashley, thanks for having me on. Keep going. I love the intro.
Okay. Okay. So we take the bag and we've been feeling the effects of it. I'm like, oh, I mean, the whole time I'm going, I've got to tell my listeners, but how am I going to tell them, like, you got to try this bag of rocks? So we had it in our office all day where we have all our electronics, right? We have multiple computers, 3D printer, the sauna, and the Wi-Fi, the everything. We actually try to hardwire everything, but we do have Wi-Fi for some things. And it just felt like it changed the energy of the office, which was really neat. Then we slept with it, not like hugging or anything. We put it beside our bed, and we can't put it under our bed because we're on this antique oak thing that has drawers. And so we just put it up past the headboard, really close to our heads, but near us. And my husband, who has been recently snoring more than usual and waking me up, and then I tell him to roll over. And what I thought was so interesting is he went into a deep sleep and he didn't snore all night long. And I woke up the next day going, wait a second, I wasn't woken up all night with snoring. Like, that's cool. And my husband woke up, went, whoa, I slept so deep last night. Like, that's neat. And I was talking about how, well, we've got to go lend this bag to so and so who has insomnia. And he's like, I don't want to be without the bag. I want to sleep with it again tomorrow night and again tonight. And so we've slept with it for a few nights. Every night has been deeper. My husband's snoring no longer wakes me up. I thought that was really interesting. If only for, like, the snoring, like, I would have bought this bag of rocks just to, like, if you told me, "I put a bag of rocks by your husband and he stopped snoring," I would have been like, "Okay, I'm sold." But how neat is that? Deeper sleep, and I've got the bag right here, and I'm holding it, and I just get this, like, charge, like, this feeling, like, if something shifted, and so I wanna dive into the amazing results, the clinicals or studies or whatever you've got. You told me you've got studies, you told me you got science, I wanna hear it. But I did do something wrong, so I'm here's, my confession. Um, when I was really excited opening my package, there was a smaller bag. It's like this little tiny bag that fits in your pocket, I guess maybe just to carry around for EMF protection. And I didn't read any of the instructions. I just thought you're supposed to hold the rocks in your hands. So I opened the bag and then I proceeded to open the second bag that was the EMF bag, and then I opened or the Faraday bag, and then I opened the plastic bag inside and I held the rocks. And that might have been why I felt a little dizzy at first. And then my husband's reading over the instructions and it's like he said, "It says to not open the bag." I'm like, "Oh no." So my husband's like, "What?" He really wants you to explain why not open the bag. And that's something you can tell us at some point, but I hope everyone is wondering what I'm wondering is, like, what's up with this bag of rocks? How did you even get involved in this? Because again, I was very skeptical, like, this guy makes a living selling people rocks, right? And it's not I mean, it's rocks you can't even look at because 'cause they're in a bag, but they have an amazing impact on your health. So, yeah, please tell us more about this bag of rocks.
Well, Ashley, you are so spot on. And as skeptical as you were, I was the same way when I found out about how the rocks are deployed, the way they're deployed, and how they work that way. And I was just going, hey, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. But then all of a sudden I started using them, bring them into our home. The biggest thing that we saw at our home, my wife was going through early menopause and she had night sweats and would wake up every night for 3 months, and her menstrual cycle stopped for 3 months straight. And once we loaded the house up with some grounding bags, everything normalized and her cycle returned. And that's when I knew we had something really, really special, like more so than, oh, me just saying, oh, I slept great, which is huge in its own right.
That's so cool. So grounding bags is probably easier or better to portray it than just like, "Go buy this magic box bag of rocks." It's a special kind of rock, it's not just any kind of rock. When I opened that bag, which I shouldn't have, but when I opened the bag and looked at them, I'm like, "I've never seen this mineral before." I don't recognize it. It's very interesting. So yeah, tell us more about what it is. How does it work?
So the same skepticism, Asha, that you had, I totally had too. And when I found out about these was from a doctor working with his patients and treating EMF, electromagnetic field sensitivities from non-native EMFs with these crystals. And I was working with another product that had crystals and copper in it. And I developed a reputation in Newport Beach, not only with working with athletes, but also going into homes and seeing the health of someone's home. And that was just huge because you got to check the environment and see how toxic it is. And that because it directly affects our health. And so he had these crystals. We ended up bringing them into our home. My wife at the time was going through some early menopause. And so her menstrual cycle stopped. And she had night sweats and wasn't sleeping for literally 3 months straight. And the cycle stopped for 3 months. And so we brought the crystals into our world and into our home, and everything normalized. Her cycle returned after 3 months. And that's when I knew we had something really, really special. And so I asked the doc, I said, hey, can I bring these to market? Are you going to bring them to market? He says, go for it. He was about to retire and he didn't want to get shut down anyways, because this is a hot topic. And so we ended up bringing the crystals to market, and they are really special. It's just not just any rock that you can go grab outside and bring into your home. Most of those have the Schumann resonance. They have the healing pulse of the earth in it because it's the earth's resonance outside. But ours have moisture properties with the magnetic. And the combination between the two of those, Ashley, is unbelievable for EMF protection. And you have to keep them sealed because they'll end up drying out over a period of time. And that's why no one's ever seen them or used them for EMF protection, is because when they would mine them, they would turn to dust over, a period of time. So they do have a resonance. We call it the Schumann resonance. It's that healing pulse of earth. The magnetic properties with the moisture is what makes them so exponentially powerful for electromagnetic radiation protection.
Got it. So that's the reason why you shouldn't open the bag, because it's the moisture
Yes.
that's escaping. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Just
seal it
reseal
back.
them.
I'm gonna seal. Yeah, I'm gonna reseal them, and it'll all be good. But yeah, I'm kind of glad I opened it because I got to see what they looked like, and I'm like, I've never seen these are a type of rock I've never seen before. So that was pretty interesting because it wasn't like you're just going out in the garden and ha ha ha, I'm gonna sell my bag of rocks. No, it feels like I'm hooked up to a machine, like some kind of frequency device when I'm holding these. And you have a whole system of how to use them, or you tap them. Can you explain what happens when we tap the bag?
Definitely. And so we're taking the Earth's resonance, which is a natural field. It's a natural electromagnetic field. And we're bringing it into our environment to create a coherence between us and all the non-native waveforms in our environment. So there's definitely protocols that we recommend we go through. And the way we use them is you put one on your bed, you'll sleep up to 3 to 60% deeper. And so let me lean into the studies here because those are big numbers. I mean, 3% accumulated over a period of time is huge. Dr. Rodney White, his deep sleep was really disrupted. He was at 45 minutes consistently for forever. Like, he's never been able to find an EMF protection product that can get it above that. And he brought the grounding bags into his bed, and you put it on or under your bed. Just as long as it's touching the bed, you're good to go. He did a sleep test for 3 months straight. He couldn't believe it. He just kept testing it. And the grounding bags allowed him to go from 45 minutes to 100 minutes for 3 months straight. And when it dropped 5%, he would take it at the grounding bag outside every month and then recharge it for about 10 to 20 minutes by putting it out on the lawn outside. And that was it. That's all he needed to do, is a passive test. And his deep sleep improved about 60% consistently. And that's a third-party independent doctor test. Dr. Berlando, he has Alpha Vedic, ALFAVEDIC. If you don't know him, I'm going to introduce you because you guys will love connecting.
Cool.
He is absolutely brilliant. Ashley, he's one of the most brilliant guys on the planet, and huge voice in the health space. And he has these dual impedance antennas. And so he measures your chi. And as Bruce Lipton will say, your health lies in your chi, and the chemistry in your body's secondary. So he measures the chi and any distortion in it, and it can tell him exactly what's going on with you, what's wrong with your health. He is the grounding bags. He tested, they clinically passively treated up to 91% of the markers that were off from EMF, which is huge. The lowest was 67%. And she was the youngest in the field. And then her thymus was decharged. So the tapping protocol that I had you do, where you take the bag and you put it, over your chest, upper chest, and tap on it. If we would have done that with her, I have a feeling the the results would have been even higher on the waveform. But because it was a passive test, we didn't, he didn't do that. It wasn't me doing it. It was all him. So the grounding bags have just some incredible merit from a doctor's testing, just outside of what the market's really showing to do, and how well they work.
So a few years ago, I interviewed Clint Ober, who I'm sure you know who Clint Ober is since you're in the earthing or grounding space. Episode 366. He has a really interesting story. He was in hanging out in Sedona, and he was watching these tourists get off the bus, and he just had this aha moment because he looked at every single person wears rubber soled shoes, so they're insulated. And we're all driving around in insulated cars because the wheels are rubber. And then we go into a house, and largely our lives are insulated, and almost never do we ever touch the earth. And so he went back to his hotel room. He got a device that you can, get at Home Depot to measure and I might say this wrong, but like measure your voltage or your watts, or like I don't know anything about electricity, but basically measure your um electrical potential versus the earth potential. And what he saw was that his body, which should be at earth potential, wasn't. And he thought, oh, this is interesting. And so he crudely put a wire into the ground of either he put it out the window. I can't remember if he put it out the window or put it into the ground of the electrical outlet beside him, but he like taped it to his body. And then the next day he slept with it. The next day he could have just went out and, you know, slept on a rock. But he already paid for this hotel room, so why not? Um, and the next day he tested himself and he saw he was at earth potential and he felt good and he thought, I wonder if there's something here. And he went up and down the coast to all the universities trying to get the professors to do studies on this, and they all kind of laughed at him. And then he finally found some professors because he funded it. He just was super interested in this concept of what would happen to the human physiology if we all took the time to get to earth potential, to release the excess electrons that are built up in the body. Could this be man-made, based on our lifestyle, man-made um, free radicals that are bombarding our DNA, causing further inflammation? In addition to, the crap diet that Americans and, now the rest of the world eat largely, unless you're a health nut like you and I and our listeners. And he finally found some professors that would do it. And he invested in, I think it was 26 studies. And they found like there was people with MS who went from being in pain in wheelchairs to like being out of pain and walking because of how much this lowered their inflammation. And he just got super excited. But he invented these mats and everything, and the mats are kind of cumbersome. I got to tell you, you can't take them everywhere with you. You're only using it like in your bed, or you're only using it in your office. And I like the one in my office, but I found that the one in the bed, although my husband would sleep good, I felt like I was being hooked up to electricity. Like I just felt kind of a bit more jittery. And so I found that using the grounding mats were more of a daytime thing for me, not a nighttime thing. I didn't get the same feeling from your bag of rocks. From your grounding bag. I did not have that same jittery feeling when the mat was hooked up to the electricity, or hooked up to the ground of the electrical outlet. And I just wonder if it's because it's more natural, right? So, but I did interview Clint Ober, so it's a good interview for people who want to learn more about earthing and grounding in general, because you can also put your feet outside. But I was talking to a client the other day. I'm like, just go walk in the grass. And she's like, but it's cold outside. I'm like, listen, just do it. And she goes, yeah, I felt really good. But like, you have to do that every day. You got to go barefoot every day as much as possible. And that might be nice if you're in Southern California, but like, I'm from the North and we're not barefoot 6 months of the year. And we're hardly as humans ever touching getting back to earth potential. And the question is, how long do you have to do earthing? Do you have to do it for 30 minutes, 60 minutes? How many times a day do you have to do it to maintain those results, right? And then I also have an interview, episode 402, with Dr. Steven Sinatra on the heart health benefits of earthing or grounding. So I like the bag of rocks. What I like about it, this specific EMF rocks are, you can take them everywhere. It's super super easy. Don't have to plug it into an outlet. I like that. I like that it's and also tell us a bit about how it changes the how did it change the air in the room, because I it changes the entire atmosphere. Like
Yeah,
it mellows everything out. I don't even have to be touching the bag, but I have it in the office, and I've been more productive in the last few days with this bag in the office than I have in months. It just shifts things. Is it because like just by being in this room with me, it's protecting me from the EMF? Like, can you just explain this more?
definitely. Well, first off, Ashley, you have a gift, obviously, and the gift of awareness and the gift of feeling energy. And not everyone can feel the energy like you do and that shift in your environment. So, some people call it a sensitivity, which it could be as well, because we had to do some clearing with you on the tapping of it. And I too have that sensitivity, but it's more of a gift and awareness. And I'm so glad you brought up Clint Ober's name and his book Earthing, because I give him so much gratitude for bringing this concept to the masses. I mean, he was the guy that really put it on the market and put it on the map and said, hey, everybody, you got to get grounded by nature and get outside, because that's how you heal and get rid of inflammation. And here are all these studies that go along with it. And I'm with you. I agree. I love his information. And just as I love Dr. Mercola's information on EMF, and he wrote a book called EMF, and the information's spot on, but their products just aren't, unfortunately. And when you're plugging something into the grid or to the electrical grid, remember, electricity doesn't travel in through the wires. It actually travels around the outside of them. So even though it's on a grounding plug, which is the bottom one, it's still getting all the electricity from the source. So you're literally charged to the level of the outlet, even though it's going to the
Right.
ground outside. It's just too much.
Yep.
Electricity and technology is awesome for healing. And we have to understand that when you use PEMF or sound beds, I use bioharmonic technologies, Dr. Stephen Schwartz, like one of my favorite products. So I'm on a sound bed. It's like you're inside of a speaker, and the sounds, the frequencies coming out of there are just so medicinal. I go into theta brainwave state, just instantly. I use, the list goes on and on. There's so much electricity out there. When you use that, it's great for your body to jumpstart it and to kick it into healing mode. But when you're attempting to do that for EMF protection 24/7, it's a futile effort. You can't use electricity or plug something into it or manufacture a resonance to create a coherence. People are attempting to do it, and they're marketing it as that it can. But I lean it back and ask the question, hey, Ashley, do you like eating genetically modified food?
No thanks.
No way. None of us do. So why would we want a modified resonance in our environment?
Mm.
That's the net of it. So you asked how the crystals work. Well, there's this thing called the Schumann resonance. It's the healing pulse of the earth, and it's about 7.83 hertz, or waves per second. That's what the frequency is. That's what we're putting in. That's what the earth has. And we've just captured a really special part of the earth with our colloidal crystals that have moisture magnetic properties that can carry that frequency and help with EMF protection. When you bring that bag of crystals into your home, what it does is it creates a coherence between you and your environment. And we live in these homes, we call them homes, but they're actually electrical boxes. Literally, since 1889, we've put electricity in our homes. And before that, the flu, they called the flu because it would fly in and fly out with solar flares. And not until electricity was put into the home was the flu here to stay. I mean, that's a huge, huge point. So even
Oh,
low level
wow.
EMF is affecting our bodies, and everything, diabetes, Alzheimer's, cardiovascular, every major health challenge has gone up on the pie graph, like, or the bar graph, like crazy. And obviously diabetes kind of took the cake, but I feel it's more of electromagnetic sensitivity. And it jumped up so high because all the manufactured fake foods. But these resonances, they affect our body in such a huge way. And so that's part of the whole concept of understanding that when you can go outside into nature, you're going to be able to create a coherence. When you can bring the resonance of nature into your home, it's innately and naturally the most quantum natural way you could do it. Create that coherence within your environment of your home or bedroom or office.
What you just said reminded me of when I interviewed Arthur Fistenberg, who is the author of The Invisible Rainbow. That is a really good book, and I highly
Yeah.
recommend everyone read it. It's thick, man. It's probably 3.5, 4 inches thick. It's a big book from what I remember. But the first chapter captured me so much. I think it was like I had requested he be on the show. I hadn't even finished the first chapter yet. I'm like, this is amazing. And he studied the history of electricity, and
And
I was
life.
blown away because yeah, what's really interesting is we've been using electricity for a lot longer than 100 years, to especially in medicine. And so he talks about the history of how we've used frequency and electricity for a long time, and then he shows you how there's good aspects around it, but he shows you how every single leap in modern technology that involved electricity was accompanied by, or just after that leap in technology, there was a major epidemic or pandemic. And he even so he came on the show episode 445, and he talks about when we first went to 1G, like when we went from analog. It was in the 90s. I think it was what, 95 or 98. Can't remember the exact time, but it was the first time they turned on the switch in Manhattan, and there was like a mini pandemic only in Manhattan, nowhere else in the world, and all these health problems happened overnight the second they turn on that switch. And so you could clearly see it's like we're guinea pigs, right? And who's to say this is healthy, right? The FCC, right? Oh yeah, sir, cell phones are healthy. And now we see that if you hold a cell phone to your head for 3 minutes, you're cooking your brain. I never hold a cell phone to my head. It's so damaging, and we're gonna see in a few years. I just know it. We're gonna see they'll finally have studies coming out showing the damaging effects of having Bluetooth devices on our body or by our head, having cell phones on our person at all times. They already have this information, but it's not like super mainstream yet. Kind of like back when they did bloodletting with leeches, that was real popular. And, they used lead and mercury in medicine, and that was super popular. And then they used x-rays like willy nilly. Like you could go into a shoe store and get your foot x-rayed every time you tried on a shoe to see if the shoe fit your foot, until they realized that's damaging too. um, lead in gasoline, super healthy for you, right? Lead in everything, until they finally realize that it's unhealthy. So we have a lot of devices. The thing is, we have to remember that just because you bought it in the store doesn't mean it's safe. There's no vetting process. We are constantly being exposed to things that are just killing us. And companies get to make these products. They get to make products that hurt us. They think they're gonna get away with it. They don't look into the safety studies. There's Companies largely are not ethical. It's up to the consumer to do their own due diligence. So that device you have in your pocket every day that you're scrolling on could be doing a lot of damage. And one of my guests, can't remember which one. It might have been Dr. Steven Sinatra said that really interesting. When you hold a cell phone, the um, mitochondria go to sleep. If this wherever the cell phone is nearby, so if you're holding it in your hand, the cells of your hand, the mitochondria, they just go night night. They go to sleep. And if you're holding it by your head, you're getting the 5,000 mitochondria per cell to take a nap of for your brain. Your brain cells are not getting the necessary food they need. It's just wild that we're being bombarded by this electromagnetic radiation, all these different frequencies. We have no idea what they're all doing to us. And especially when we mix them all together, like how many Wi-Fi signals and cell phone towers are all coming at us, right? And I used to live out in the country where you couldn't get cell reception, and man, did I sleep good. Or anytime notice when there's a power outage, as long as you're not worried about the power outage, right? You sleep so good, or go camping, right? You sleep so good when all the Wi-Fi is shut off and all the, or the cell towers are shut off, or you're away from them. You're away, somewhere in the middle of nowhere. You sleep so good. So, how many people are taking meds to mask the symptoms that EMF exposure is causing? So anyways, I want to talk more about the solution than the problem, but I think it's really poignant that we point out that there's a lot we don't know, and because it's invisible, we think it's safe.
Yeah, exactly. Let me share why you don't sleep with EMF. Sound good?
Yeah, let's do it.
The reason is because let's talk about this EMF stuff, Ashley, in a wave per second, because that's how we measure it. When you go to buy a meter, a EMF meter, electromagnetic field or frequency meter, the specific meters are designed to measure the speed of a wavelength. So if you get a milligauss meter, it's going to meter 50 to 60 hertz or waves per second. If you get a Stetzer electric meter, STETZER electric.com, it's about $140. You plug it in the wall, that'll meter any static in the line, any dirty electricity in the 4,000 to about 100,000 waves per second spectrum. When you get an acoustimeter, a one-directional wireless meter, or it doesn't have to be one directional. I like those, but they're measuring 50 million to billions of waves per second. And just to clarify, 5G is 60 to 90 gigahertz or billion waves per second. When we're sleeping, Ashley, our brainwave state, we're in a delta or theta brainwave state. Our brainwave states are 1 or below 1 to 8 hertz or waves per second. 1 or below 1 to 8. When our athletes are in the flow state with athleticism, they can't miss. Everyone calls it, they're in the zone. They're in an alpha brainwave state about 8 to 12 hertz or waves per second. Remember the Schumann resonance of the Earth, the healing pulse of Earth, 7.83 hertz or waves per second. We rev one with the universe. Now, the difference is this other stuff, it's way faster, but not only that, they're one directional waveforms, or they don't work. So they end up being polarizing on our body.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the essence of the difference between us and non-native EMFs. They're not made the same as we are. And the most simple explanation, Ashley, is when you drop a pebble into a pond, does the wave splash of the pebble going into the water go in a circular direction equally in every direction, or does it go in a straight line to the right or left?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that nice, beautiful circular ripple.
Why is that? Okay, that is because it's an unpolarized wave. It's the foundational framework of our entire living collective intelligence matrix of a universe, and how we're one with the universe. We're also built on unpolarized waves. They distribute equally in every direction. It's not a one directional waveform. They're called scalar waves. That's the framework for every waveform resonance on Earth. My energy field They say, hey, stay 6 feet. Our biofield goes out about 6 to 8 feet from everybody all around us. It's not straight out of my right ear. You have to stay 6 feet away from my right ear. Like, it's not a one directional waveform. I'm not standing in the Schumann resonance and getting grounded in one spot of the beach or the park, and then step over to the right and I'm not getting grounded in the other spot. It's not a one spot. It's a resonance that's unpolarized, that's everywhere. It distributes equally in every direction. And so let me just stop there, and then I'll go into the waves and particles in our atmosphere next.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, the Schumann resonance, super interesting. Episode 445, our author Fistenberg, he touched on that. And what's interesting, and I've heard this before, that when astronauts started going to, you know, out, outside of Earth, they would start getting sick because they were not part of the Schumann resonance anymore. We can't hear it because it's always there, right? We're not, it's just always, it's ubiquitous with our life. We're all bathed in it. But when you leave the earth, you're no longer bathed in it, and we start getting sick, which makes sense. So we're separating ourselves from the Schumann resonance when we insulate our lives, never touch the earth, and then surround ourselves with um totally different frequencies that are drowning it out.
Yeah,
And I
for
just,
sure.
no wonder, like, in the book Invisible Rainbow, he outlines so many of these diseases that have risen, which we can say physiologically, like, see, I see the clogged artery over here. I had an expert on my show who's a research cardiologist, who he's the one that discovered the beginning of heart disease started 30 years before. And it's all starts with the inflammation. Well, what's causing the inflammation? Right? Go even further. Now we can see that, and with the studies that Clint Ober funded, we can see that by getting back to Earth potential, we've removed the excess electrons that are causing the damage. So that's just on that level. We're not even talking about now take it one step further and protect ourselves from these waves, right? The waves of these unnatural non-native EMF waves that we're constantly being bathed in from cell towers and all the electronics we're surrounded by.
Definitely.
Back to the bag of rocks. How does this bag of rocks? The skeptic in me is going, all right, come on, tell us how the bag of rocks helps us, because it's a bag of rocks. But seriously, how, like, I feel amazing when it's around. So how is it, just by being in the room, how is it helping prevent EMF exposure?
Because you're bringing nature's resonance into your home to create a coherence between you and your environment. And obviously,
Mm,
there's some EMF in your environment that is a little strong for your biofield to take. And so you see
mhm.
it chemistry wise. And the person who said that your mitochondria gets disrupted right out of the gates is exactly right. Dr. Martin Paul out of Washington State University talked about the voltage gated calcium channels breaking down. Let's break down those 4 words. Those are voltage gated. That's a gateway for your mitochondria to get energy for your body. It's so simple. So, right out of the gate, it disrupts our cellular health, our mitochondria function, where we get energy. And it's an oxidative stress. It destructures water, it calcifies your pineal gland. So, you're not going to get into those lucid dreams and be able to go into those more awareness states that we're that's what we do every day, is to help everyone learn and through experiences and getting out into nature to raise their level of consciousness. All that stuff is disrupted through EMF. And then it goes into more of the cognitive stuff. So you get into the lack of memory, focus, anxiety, more behavioral challenges, fatigue, stress, headaches, ringing in the ears. Those are all level 1 EMF sensitivity. So we see it in such a broad spectrum. There's level 2 and 3, which I'll get into in a little bit. But this stuff is a stressor. We don't typically see air, right? Unless you're in LA and it's all polluted, you don't see air. So You don't see these waveforms. But let's talk about our air. Our air is ether or plasma. Waves and particles travel through it. That's how you're in Washington. I am in Southern California. We're able to communicate and have this awesome conversation that everyone's going to be able to hear across the world. So it's through waveforms, and the waveforms traveling through this air, which is, particles and waves. And when there's a shift in that, our bodies adapt. And as Arthur Furstenberg says in The Invisible Rainbow, before 1889, when there were a lot of people that got sick, it was from solar flares or cosmic shifts in our electromagnetic blanket of an atmosphere. And then once electricity hit home, the flu was here to stay. And then we had shifts where people adapted to bigger electrifications of non-native waveforms. So 1918 Spanish flu, they also introduced radio waves right at that same time frame.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why a lot of people all around the world, even back then when they couldn't travel, they would get the same symptoms, because their bodies were naturally adapting to that frequency, that challenge, that new environment. And I have a flow chart from Dr. Darren Weissman. He developed the system called the Lifeline Technique, and he uses infinite love and gratitude to clear the body. And in his flow chart, one of the healing modalities is you go into waves and particles, or particles and waves, and it directly affects your REM patterns is the next thing. So we know, like, even docs that had no bearing on EMF, it's in their modality, their healing charts. And if it's cosmic or man-made, our bodies are still adapting at the level we're capable of when there's these big shifts. Then you had radio waves. Then you had radio waves. Then you had satellites. And then you had radar, World War II. And then what did we have last several years and keep having? 5G. And they keep adding and turning it up. And so when a lot of people get sick, it's too much of it. Like, you fly in an airplane, there's so much EMF. I have clients that their glucose levels spike 200 points and they get a bloody nose instantly.
Wow.
From flying an airplane. So we know that this invisible environment affects us. And we know that nature is designed to create a coherence. When we can bring her resonance into our environment, then the question is, how much of the Earth's resonance do we need in our environment? And what we've seen in the test show, and we sell our grounding bags through doctor clinics all around the country. So that's where they're sold exclusively through. And there's protocols to dealing with it. So 5 grounding bags together will clear a 2,000 square feet space. One is about 70 feet. And then you want it touching the source. So you want it on your bed or desk or car seat. If someone has solar, we want 7 grounding bags together to clear 2,000 square feet, because solar, they haven't figured out how to ground it. They just haven't. And it causes lots of static in the line. So every home that I've metered over the last decade that has solar has really high levels of dirty electricity. Then you go into the electric car thing, which is, it's insane. It's the most ridiculous product that's ever been made. Sitting on a massive battery is not good for your health. Pharma can't even make that up. It never will be. And that's what they're deploying for families. And that causes 18% lower testosterone as guys and girls driving electric cars. So we got to look at our environment.
Wow. I know people who feel sick when they get into electric vehicles. I have a friend who his entire body he felt like his skin was on fire, like fire ants were biting him
Yeah.
when he got into a Tesla. And we all have different ranges of our tolerance level, kind of like alcohol, right? You have that friend who could drink you under the table, and then there's people who like me, I drink I mean, I don't drink alcohol for this reason, but half a beer and I'm dancing on the table with the lampshade on my head. So I actually was a bartender when I was 19. Fun story. I loved having jobs as a kid, and so as early as I could, back up in Canada, where I'm from, you can legally be a bartender at 19. I wasn't like doing it like under the table or anything. But I every summer I had summer jobs. Absolutely loved it. I worked in so many industries. I learned so much. It was so much fun for me. And so as a bartender, I looked around and I'm like, I don't really tolerate alcohol that well. But then like having to babysit drunk people, not for me. Definitely didn't want to drink alcohol, but watching people's alcohol tolerance is a really interesting observation to then correlate that to other tolerances like pain. Everyone has sort of different level tolerances and EMF tolerance. And so you can have someone who could drive a Tesla and they're like, I don't feel anything. I feel great. I love my I love my Tesla, and I don't care that my testosterone is plummeted. Um, and other
Right.
people, they get in one and they start feeling really sick. I did an interview a few years ago with Kellyanne Andrews about she has an amazing ionic foot spa that removes heavy metals from your body, significant amounts of it. And she had a woman, she was at the library, and a woman is walking with a cane, and all of a sudden her legs just stop working. She falls to the ground like a marionette who had her strings cut. And Kellyanne is a nurse, so she runs over and she's helping this woman. And the woman says, "I don't know what happened. I am really sensitive to EMF exposure, and that's why I walk with a cane. And usually my muscles stop working when I'm near EMF, but I'm not near any." And Kellyanne looked and walked around the desk that she had walked by, and there was all the computer banks hidden right behind this desk or wall or something that this woman had walked by. And so Kellyanne brought her back to her house and gave her these treatments with the ionic foot spa called the Platinum Energy System. And the woman left her cane at Kellyanne's house, and Kellyanne had her chase after her, running to her car, saying, "You forgot your cane, you forgot your cane." And the woman's like, "Oh my gosh, you're right. Wow, I feel a lot stronger." And so she proceeded to do more of these treatments and got all the heavy metals out of her, and then she stopped being as sensitive. Well, when I had Dr. Klinghardt on the show, he talks about how we are more sensitive to EMFs when we have heavy metal toxicity, and who doesn't these days? If you've ever had a vaccine, you've had a heavy metal of some kind put in you. But if you've eaten tuna or if you've eaten any kind of large fish, if you drank from cans and I don't know, grew up around lead paint. I've been dealing for years, very slowly, healthfully, gradually getting rid of my heavy metal toxicity. And every time I see a naturopath about it, they always look at my labs and look at me and go, did you grow up in a factory? Like, were you like mining coal? Like, why do you have these? And I'm like, I don't know. I think everyone has different levels of detox. So even if you didn't grow up near a factory, you're breathing in, it's in our air, it's in our food, it's heavy metals are just part of life of this modern toxic life. And some people detox better than others, but if you have an accumulation of heavy metals, then they vibrate at the same frequency as the microwaves and the Wi-Fi, and they're vibrating in your brain and they're vibrating in your cells, and it's causing havoc. And so people who walk near the EMF, it's like it triggers all this metal inside their body that's now vibrating, and then they have these big symptoms, right? Whereas someone who's really clean and their body doesn't have any, say they have safe levels of heavy metals or they have no heavy metals, they they seem to have a higher tolerance for how much EMF they can handle before they start to notice it. But EMF is unhealthy regardless of if you feel it or not. And that's something really important to remember because it's invisible. And if you don't feel it, you're less likely to do anything about it. Like that's why high blood pressure is this silent killer, because if you have high blood pressure, you don't really feel it until it's too late or until it's too high. But we're being constantly bombarded by something that's doing this slow microscopic damage to us. And for some people like me, I am more sensitive, and I can feel when there's shifts in the room. Like I'm holding my bag of rocks right now, feel amazing. And I don't think I've ever been in an electric vehicle before, nor do I
Lucky
want to.
you. Well, when I was interviewed by Tom Cowan several years ago, I forget what number it was, like 14, conversation with Tom Cowan, number 14. He talked about this kind of hitting his radar and his list. One of his clients or patients at the time was an electrician, and he was also a surfer. And the guy ended up breaking his arm and couldn't get in the water and surf anymore, but he had a metal plate put in his arm. And so he was out of the water sidelined, but then he had a huge metal rod put in his body, and he started getting all these EMF sensitivity symptoms. And
Mm.
so Tom correlated the two, and he's like, you got to get grounded. You got to get back in the ocean. That's why you're getting all these symptoms. It was so toxic. And when you have more metal, whether it's from tattoos or metal plates or new hips or shoulders or vaccines or fillings or amalgams or what have you, you're going to definitely be more EMF sensitive. So you got to go through those detox protocols to flush and get the metals out. And you got to get grounded as much as you can as well. And then a subtle, simple protocol that we use for radiation flushing is apple cider vinegar, bentonite clay, and protease, which is a proteolytic enzyme. It's a digestive enzyme. And so the three of those together, just recommended amounts every day, will help flush all that EMF internally out. And then you go through the tapping program with our bags where you tap on the bag, and then you cover your eyes with the other hand, and then teeth, and then upper chest, thymus, and then intestine area, one at a time for about 20 seconds each. You'll feel your energy shift just as you did, Ashley, where you're flushing your biofield, you're clearing toxicity out of your energy field. It doesn't only get stuck internally with the heavy metal, but it also gets stuck in your energy field. I mean, Eileen McCusick talks a lot about tuning forks and clearing your biofield through tuning forks, sound therapy. She can clear generations out of stuck emotional challenges and such in there. And so, and the other part that I don't want to mention is she talks about the body in the best way. It acts like a body battery, where we get a negative charge from the Earth's resonance, we get a positive charge from the sunlight. The unpolarized light of the sun distributes equally in every direction. We breathe in minerals. That's why Zach Bush says, hey, get in all these different microbiomes. They're great for you. Hopefully we get it from our food, right? The nutrients and the minerals. And then we drink the water for all that as well, plus the conductivity of it all. That's how our body battery works. If we're missing any one of those components, then those are gateways or opportunities. If our eyes get decharged, or our teeth get decharged, or our thymus loses its polarity, we become a gateway for dis-ease in the body.
Mm. I, a year ago, learned how to correct polarity, and I've been doing it with my clients. I've done it with just about 150 clients in the last year. And one of my clients didn't even tell me half the things that she was suffering from. She she calls me up. She leaves me a voice message. I still have it. I actually put it in episode 500. We have a testimonial episode because she gave me permission to share it. And it was so cool because I taught her how to correct her polarity. And a few days later, she leaves me this message. And I remember when I first listened to it, I had it playing in the car. My husband's driving home with our son, and I have it playing, and I'm just smiling ear to ear because it was the wildest thing. She goes, Ashley, I have to thank you because for the last 6 years I suffered from, and then she like lists the weirdest symptoms, and some of them you've mentioned because they're EMF, similar to EMF poisoning symptoms, right? Like she felt completely ungrounded. She felt dizzy. Anytime she went near trees or nature, it was weird. She actually had to like she had to unground herself. She was like, she felt safer when she was in a second story versus near the ground. She grew a phobia, not a phobia to water, but like her water made her feel sick. Things that were
Wow.
healthy seemingly made her feel sick because her polarity was completely reversed. So things that were good were like bad. And she had gone to doctor after doctor and, healer after healer for years and was feeling so out of whack. She just had to lie down. She'd feel dizzy and weak and weird symptoms. I taught her how to correct her polarity. Her polarity got corrected, and she goes, "It's all gone. All of it's gone. All of the symptoms I suffered from are gone." And that's how powerful it is to correct your polarity. It's really interesting. Again, you can't see it, so it's like it's invisible, so a lot of times we are very skeptical around these things, but we understand, like, if you took a bunch of, metal shavings, right, and put it around a magnet, you can actually see the polarity of the magnet, which is so freaking cool. You can see this it's called a torus, where the shape comes out of one pole and goes around to the other pole, but it's three-dimensional. But the shavings, obviously, because of gravity, isn't like going to float. So you're just seeing it two-dimensionally on the table, right? You're not seeing the whole field. But that's our bodies too. We have like a north pole and a south pole, and we have this. It's called a torus. The shape of the electromagnetic field that's coming out of our body back in, I want to say like 99, something like way back in the day. I went with a friend. I was like about 19 years old, and I went with a friend to this I don't know how to describe it, because it was this there was this psychic fair, but it was a classroom where he was teaching like life skills that had to do with more on the esoteric side, but like here's the science behind it. And he says, "Okay, I'm going to show you that you have this electromagnetic field that you actually have. We call it, in the new age, we call it an aura, but like in science, you're like, you have an electromagnetic field that we can actually measure." And because we have this energy field that comes out of our body. And so he took dowsing rods, which again sound very woo woo, but I'll get to that in a sec. And he was about 25 feet away from this woman. He said, "Turn your back to me, just stand here on the stage." And he held these metal rods and he walked towards her, and then all of a sudden they move on their own. He's just very delicately holding them, balancing them in his hands. He's not doing anything with his hands, and they just move. And then he talks to her, and he shares with her how to shrink, how to pull in and shrink her aura or her electromagnetic field. And he does it again. He shows that it's smaller. And then he says, "Now I want you to expand your consciousness, expand your awareness, make it really big." And they showed that she could do it like 50 feet if she wanted to. And then we all got to play with it. And it's so cool because these dowsing rods actually do move on their own when you hit someone's field. Now, I wasn't thinking this was like magic voodoo new age stuff, because I had worked with a plumber. We had a septic tank, and it was the winter, and he couldn't find the septic tank or the entrance to it, and so he got his dowsing rods. He said, "This is a plumbing tool here in Canada, up in the north, where we have to like find your septic tank in the snow. You grab dowsing rods, because anytime there's moving water or a body of water or pipes in your house or electrical, you can find it by holding these two rods and walking across the electromagnetic field, and the electromagnetic field will move them for you." And so I got super excited. I took two hangers, bent them in the shape of dowsing rods, and I walked around my house finding all the pipes and all the wires, because it's so neat to have something move in your hand. I can't see it. You can't see the electromagnetic field, but you're surrounded. Your entire house, just like you said, your entire house is surrounded. Your entire house is surrounded with this constant bombardment of electromagnetic fields, whether it's a healthy one, like a pipes, water moving through pipe. That seems kind of, benign, but then there's all these wires, and the electricity is moving on the outside. That's the electromagnetic field. So so it's so interesting that we have this energy field that is affected by everything around us, but our energy field is not just a few inches from our body. It's feet. It's feet from our body, and it's part of us because we are electrical. Right? You can go to if God forbid, if you had to go to the hospital, they'd hook you up to electrodes and they'd measure the electricity in your body, whether it be your heart or your brain, to see how it's going, right? To see what's up, to diagnose things. So we if we don't have electricity running through us, we are not alive. Um, do you have any
Definitely.
more like science you want to share about the EMF rocks? Did you have any more science or studies or research? Because I love bringing like how you have like the ancient wisdom bringing
Yeah.
and then going, hey, here's modern science to prove that this ancient wisdom, like the Schumann resonance and we should be at Earth potential, actually there's something to it. We can now measure it. There's something to it. I mean, we know we can feel it, but now let's prove it with science. So do you have any more that you can share with us?
Yes, definitely. I mean, the first two right out of the gates that I shared are huge tests that I lean in on because everyone will feel the benefits in their sleep. I mean, that's where you'll see it the most. So 3% to 60% deeper sleep, barely of correct and passively up to 91%. I do pH tests and it'll normalize. Your pH will normalize. So I've done pH tests, which is crazy. You go stand in front of a Tesla battery for solar on someone's home. That's right next to the smart meter, and for every minute that you're in front of that, you have to have 10 minutes away from it to clear it out. So it takes a little time to do the test, but the pH paper, after you tap on the bags and stand from it, you have a better pH than when you started, more
Wow.
normalized. So, yeah, and we can go through, we've done med bed tests where you put it on a med bed and it actually grounds it out. We're talking about us carrying more voltage. We're not supposed to carry extra non-native electromagnetic voltage in our system, but most of us walk around with extra 6 volts or so. So that's why it's so important to get grounded. So the grounding bags will help normalize that as well. We'll see it on EEG tests where the heart coherence, that coherence that we're having, you'll have more normalized. The doctors do their own third-party tests, so I get a lot of results from doctors and just from their own testing to say, hey, one grounding bag kicks out about 70 feet. The 5 together is better. Dr. Charlie Fagenholtz, who's one of the fastest growing docs out there, huge following, online course. He's amazing. He just upped our time to recharge the bags by putting them on the ground. He said 10 to 20 minutes once a month. Before, we never even recommending recharging the grounding bags because when the crystals are in solid form, they're ground. And so there's bags I still have in my house where we haven't regrounded them. They're still working. They're still effective as long as they're in solid form. Once they lose their form, they lose their function for EMF protection. But I've leaned in to a lot of the doctors because we sell them all through these doctor clinics, MDs to chiros to naturopaths. There's an array of different doctors, acupuncturists and all that do their own testing with it. And probably one of the coolest things, I just went into the doc this past week for a chest cold, and I was in a toxic environment. I was at a trade show and then an event in Las Vegas for a week straight with secondhand smoke and not grounding, bad lighting, and I got up a respiratory thing. And so I go in to clear it, and she's like, "Oh, you're EMF sensitive." And I said, "Well, let me show you." I go. The clinic sells my grounding bags, and so I said, "Go grab a grounding bag." So I went through the tapping protocol, and it totally flushed the EMF out of the biofield. I wasn't sensitive to EMF anymore, and she was a new doc to this clinic, so she didn't know all the protocols with it. She just thought you just passively place it on there. But the other cool thing is it's one of the only products on the market that's an active healing product where you can tap on it and actively flush and 10x your energy. How's you felt so much more productive when you tapped on it and wanted to go do stuff? That's what it did, is it upped your energy field. It got the mitochondria to function. It created a coherence with our environment. And probably one of the biggest messages that I think is the standout message for us in our talk today is having a coherence with our environment, because our environment could kill us instantly. or it could allow us to thrive. And we have to understand that we're one with our environment as nature. And when we can get out into it and create that coherence, we're going to recharge our body battery and be able to heal. And it's really tough to heal when you're decharged. So it's one of the first missteps of getting people to heal is to get outside of nature and reground. And then when we can't get outside, and if you're in the colder temperatures, touch a tree. If you can't go barefoot, hug it if that's your thing. Get into bodies of water. I do cold water therapy all the time in the ocean, no wetsuit. I'm in there for extended periods of time, no matter what the temp is. And so I'm putting in the work. You guys, you got to put in the work and then bring that resonance into your home. And that's going to be huge for you. Bring that resonance into your home through the grounding bags.
Now, your website, listeners can go to learntruehealth.com/EMF rocks, as in, woohoo, it rocks. They're also a bag of rocks. So learntruehealth.com/EMF rocks and coupon code LTH. There's a lot of really interesting stuff on your website. You have the tapping protocol on your website. You also have these Faraday bags. Can you tell us a bit about why someone should have a Faraday bag? What do they use it for? I mean, beyond the obvious, like put your cell phone in it, but like, what do you use these Faraday bags for?
Yeah, so this has been a crazy journey. I mean, literally in the past decade or just over a decade, I've learned that EMFs and how they rev differently than us, and how we're one with our nature. And because I had some sensitivity, I could feel it. If I had a really watch on my hand, I could feel the pain underneath it. We saw all these different. I've had a lot of learning experiences over the years with EMF, and what it keeps turning into. Then it's like, okay, how does it affect our body? How does it affect our sleep? How does it affect your hormones? And so it's leaned in on the next topic, which is our privacy and our security. And these cell phones are designed to aggregate all your information at record speeds and send it to artificial intelligence and to learn so they can do surveillance marketing to sell you more products. Every app on your phone, Ashley, has about 1 to 15 trackers on it. It tracks your gait, how fast you drive. It knows all your passcodes and your bank accounts and your literally everything about you. These phones are tracking at record speeds and learning from you. And so the Faraday bags are awesome because you can put your phone in it. And ours are really inexpensive bags. They're $12 to $15 bags. The blackout ones are over several $100 bags. And so ours, when we first made them a handful of years ago, they would pretty much black out everything. Well, the telecoms up the signal strength of these devices. And so you're really carrying a high powered router in your hand that's way over 2.45 gigahertz or waves per second in your hand. And so when I first made them, we would test the phone and the phone wouldn't ring inside of them. Now they do. So frequencies go in and out of our Faraday bag. But when you put a positive polarizing charge of a cell phone in a Faraday bag, it squashes it to safe levels. And when you put good into it, it amplifies it. Of a negative charge, it amplifies. So it's a crazy deal. But anyway, for purposes of putting a cell phone in the Faraday bag, it not only squashes it to what bioinitiative.org would consider safe levels, but what muscle testing considers safe levels. So I do lots of applied kinesiology. I've been muscle testing for over 30 some years now. And you can test when you're proficient at testing the body's reflexes and energy through applied kinesiology. You can test and showcase how our grounding bags work. But when you put a phone in the bag and seal it, even if the phone's ringing inside the bag, you muscle test strong. Just holding the phone outside the bag, you muscle test weak. So we know that it's really beneficial for the body just to have it inside the Faraday bag, and your phone will still ring most likely in it now with them turning up the signal strength. But what it does is it slows down that data harvesting, that aggregation of information. So the life of your battery lasts longer.
Huh. Wow. Wow. Crazy. All right. Well, I'm gonna test that.
It's so fun. Yeah, it's a fun test. And those things are super slick. They're really effective, but we got to slow down this aggregation of information from AI. They were giving away our fingerprints, our palm prints, our retinas, our voice, our face. These are called biometrics. They're our single most unique identifiers, and we're giving them away at record speed. So this whole concept has turned into security and privacy, which, I know you're a homeschooling mom. Like, these are huge parts of our body sovereignty and our freedom that we're giving away at record speed. So the more we can slow down their aggregation of our information, the better off we will be.
Yeah, there's that idea of the tracking, track, trace, and database us all. But I've got a lot of friends who are like, I don't care about doing anything wrong. So what? So they know why I went to Starbucks. So what? My my biggest concern is the fact that while uh, it needs to send out these signals every nanosecond in order to track, trace, and database you, and these signals are harming you.
Right.
So if the phone didn't do all this tracking, it wouldn't have to constantly ping, constantly send out information. We also have like smart meters, which I talked about Robin Openshaw on my show. We had a whole long discussion about how dangerous smart meters are and how unhealthy they are. Gosh, I'm thinking back and I realized I probably have at least 12 different interviews with experts on EMF over the years. I have one guy who this was back in the 50s. Back way, I mean, we're in the 500s now. Way back in like the first year I started the podcast 7 years ago. His name is Sal, and he's got like I don't know 2 PhDs in electric stuff. He's like an electrical engineer, super genius, but he's hired to go around the world. People hire him to go test, just like you test people's homes, and there'll be people who are sick and they don't know why they're sick, and they have him come in and he finds out that it's because it's dirty electricity in their home, or the whole neighborhood is messed up because the electricity coming into the entire neighborhood, because there's one transformer that's whacked, and the electricity can still come in, but it's dirty electricity. It's at such a frequency that it's causing people to literally be sick. And so he comes in and tries to clean everything up, and he says, smart meters, big bad, super big bad, and we're being strong armed into agreeing to have them. They are sending out constant pulses through the whole house, like you have. It's similar to if you had agreed to have a cell tower attached to your house. It's
Exactly.
sending out pulses through the entire house at your body all the time. So we're being bombarded, and maybe you don't have one, but maybe your neighbor does. It's just we're being constantly bombarded. So we have to step up our game to protect ourselves. Just like in I was sick for many years. My list, if you've listened to my show for a few episodes, you've probably heard me talk about it. But I was sick for many years, and that's what really had me double down on making sure that nothing toxic came into my house.
Yeah.
People, if you're not sick, you just go to the store and you buy whatever laundry detergent that has all kinds of carcinogens, cancer causing chemicals, and you just buy the Colgate or the Crest toothpaste because it's just that's what's there, that's what you grew up on, or that's all the commercials you saw, and it says, oh, dentists approve this. And we just buy what's ever on the shelf, like some kind of Arm& and Hammer deodorant or whatever. And meanwhile, they're filled with heavy metals. They're filled with carcinogens. We kept coming back to this point of manufacturers make stuff that is going to harm you. They don't do safety testing on their products because there's no approval process for that. And the EPA, 90% of new chemicals and products brought to the market, the EPA rubber stamps anyway. I have a whole really interesting interview about that. If anyone wants to listen, I don't remember the number of it right now, but it's a guy named Andrew. I'll remember it. He's a world's leading expert on green homes, and um and getting non-toxic building materials. He's super interesting. Like it was BMW or Mercedes, like I can't remember which one, came to him to figure out a solution to make non-toxic adhesives for their vehicles so that they could import their vehicles, their vehicle that was made in the US, so they could import it into Germany, because Germany has higher standards than America. A lot of European countries have higher standards, and they won't allow these toxic off-gassing glues and adhesives into their country, but they were using them on the American vehicles because there's no standards. So there's a lot of damage being done to us every day because we're breathing. If you can smell something, it's in your bloodstream. If you smell a fragrance, your liver is processing it in 15 minutes. And you just we're constantly being bombarded. So I was really sick for a long time. I did a lot to clean up my diet, to clean up my life. I got the majority of my health back fairly quickly using natural medicine, and I've been at it working ever since to just be a healthier. Tomorrow I'll be a healthier version than I am today. Every day, little baby steps. Every choice I make, what I put in my body, the products I use on my body, I'm going to be a healthier version than I am today. And just like using this bag of rocks, I'm like, how flipping cool. Like if it's 3% every day, I can't wait to see what my life is like in 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. And then you sent me, and thank you. You sent me your brand new toothpaste that you just created. It's very interesting. I use healthy toothpaste. I know the look on his face. No one can see him, but he's laughing. And you have
Oh
beautiful
yeah.
pearly whites, by the way. Um, listen, if you're a health nut like me, if you're addicted to wellness like we are, you're gonna freak out for his toothpaste, because what I noticed is it exfoliated my gums, not in a way that made left them raw. I was just like, I felt around my mouth. I'm like, wow, I feel like I just went to the dentist. Like my whole mouth feels really clean,
Isn't that
and it,
crazy?
it yeah, it like exfoliated everything. Like it totally polished my teeth. Didn't it's soft enough that it wouldn't hurt it, but it takes off the plaque. And and I know you say it's 3 ingredients, but, like, one of the ingredients is water, and you can't really count that as an ingredient since I'm putting water on my toothbrush anyway. So it's really 2 ingredients. And you've got this kind of clay. I want you to tell us a bit about it. And then you've got this very, very light peppermint, and it's actually really pleasant because there's no
Or
sweeteners, there's
spearmint.
no,
Yeah.
and it doesn't, it's spearmint, but it's just so, so, so light. It's not overwhelming because all the toothpaste I use, which are all natural anyway, it's like they dump half a bottle of essential oils in it. It's like, here, you like a little bit of peppermint, try half a bottle. Um, and usually it's too overpowering for me when I'm brushing my teeth with all these other natural, you know, toothpastes, and yours is just subtle. There's no bad flavor. It's a neutral flavor. You got that tiny, tiny hint of spearmint, so that's wonderful. And then my whole mouth felt sparkling clean. So yeah, tell us a bit about why you designed this toothpaste, and why is it only 3 ingredients, but one of them is water, so it's really 2 ingredients.
Oh, thanks. It's so fun. We hand mine crystal, so we have access to mines, and one of the mines is pink montmorillonite, and we have one of the purest forms anywhere in the world. It's over 85% pure pink montmorillonite. So just to let people know, bentonite clay is 8 to 30% pure montmorillonite, and we're over 85% pure montmorillonite. So bentonite clay is kind of like just dirt, and it's not great for you. I recommend it for, it's a great chelator. It's really easily accessible, but montmorillonite is exponentially better. And so it's so mineral dense. That's why people add fluoride and all this other crap to toothpaste, is because there's no minerals in it. So they want to remineralize the teeth. You naturally get the minerals, the essential minerals, calcium and silica and all these natural minerals that you need for your body. And that's why guaranteed you feel like you went to the dentist and your teeth are cleaner than ever. But it's naturally done that way. So we just use montmorillonite hand mined crystals into like 300 mesh form. That's toothpaste mesh. That's safe and smooth on your teeth. and then we add organic spearmint, and we have a citrus blend as well, and then just water. So distilled water, clean water, and that charges them, and they're amazing.
It was episode 59 with Sal LaDuca. I looked it up. So Sal LaDuca, that's a good one. That was, I think, maybe that might have been my first episode diving into EMF, and he had some wild stories. And then Andy Pace, episode 453 on non-toxic homes and achieving a non-toxic home and work environment. If you're ever going to renovate your house or build a house, you've got to listen to that episode. You can contact him. One of my friends that I actually had on the show, and then we became friends, I introduced him to Andy, and he got him because his son had cancer, and he's now completely cancer free. His cancer had come back, and the first time they did it like half natural medicine, half whatever the oncologist wanted to do, and then it came back, and they went to the oncologist and said, if you don't mind just watching and waiting, we want to try it 100% natural. And they were able to get rid of this very aggressive form of childhood cancer in their son the second time 100% naturally. And they realized that they had to spend the rest of his childhood preventing it from returning. And so they went to Andy and said, help us build an EMF safe, non-toxic home, like ground up. And so he helped them choose every single building material. There's only a handful of companies in the world that make paints and it glues adhesives with nothing that off gases, and he's got access to them. So that's episode 453.
Awesome.
And recently, I just published this episode 514 about nano silver. And I want to say, if you are looking to add one thing or maybe trade out the water, I would consider playing with nano silver, like maybe trading out the water and adding nano silver liquid, because you can listen to my episode 514. They have something like 50,000 dental procedures done with this nano silver, and there's almost no infections. They have major dental procedures where they're like removing teeth or doing implants, and the next day there's zero infection, zero pain, zero inflammation,
It's
because
awesome.
of the power of the nano silver. But I'm really excited about the mineral that's in, or the crystal that's in this the toothpaste that you created. Can you say the name really slowly so so I can say it? What is it called?
Oh, it's pink montmorillonite, and I've actually,
Montmorillonite?
yeah, I've actually considered having colloidal silver in it as well, and the cool thing is our montmorillonite's so pure, it doesn't do well with anything else, and it doesn't need anything else. So we're just going
Mm,
to probably stay with this for a bit, see how it goes.
nice.
Maybe in the future we'll add that in there, but right now we don't really have a need for it because
It
it's
doesn't
just
need
so
it.
effective.
Yeah, it is. It feels really good, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I love like I said, it felt like my gums were exfoliated in a good way. It felt so clean. It felt cleaner than my super healthy toothpaste that I've been using for years. So good job creating this.
Thanks.
How did you figure out to create this? Because you're like, well, we mine this crystal, and they're like, if I was mining crystal, I wouldn't be like, aha, I'm making a toothpaste like that. How did you get there from there?
Well, montmorillonite's really powerful for a lot of different things. They use it in koi fish, cattle feed. You can drink the cloud water. You can drink water with white in it. It's just so nutrient dense for the body. It's such an amazing healer. You could put it over wounds or spider bites. But the pink's really great for teeth. And so, just learning about the crystals and having the history that the owners have with this mines, we've learned a lot about how the benefits of it and how clear it is. And there's so many products that throughout the years that we've rolled out. The toothpaste one, lean oil, the MCT oil is one that helps buffer the insulin spiking with glucose from EMF. These are all just really fun products that we've rolled out, and kind of I wanted to go back to your smart meter talk. Josh Del Sol did a documentary movie called Take Back Your Power. So I wanted everyone to make
Ooh.
sure they watch that one. That one's huge on smart meters. There's sporadic pulses, like 7 to 15-second pulses, multiple bandwidths, so receiving and sending every, several seconds. So it's just really challenging on our body. But he foresaw everything that's going on. And that was about at least 12, 15 years ago when he produced that movie. Just unbelievable documentary movie.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like you feel like smart meters are new, but they've been pushing it for a while. I remember hearing about it 15 years ago, and the whistleblowers came out then. And, they all the utility companies just push forward because it's going to save them money. So
Oh,
as long as it
totally.
saves them money, it's either, but businesses are in business to save money and make money and at the expense of our health. So we just have
Right.
to remember that all businesses are out. It's like their secondary gain is to destroy the earth and the planet and humanity, um, as long as they make a buck at the end of the day, right? And I know there are ethical companies because it's the person behind the company, right? So
Right.
that's why I love interviewing these small businesses. Hopefully, it won't be small forever, right? Like one day you might, I don't know, there might be a bag of rocks in every home because it's so cool. It's also like really neat to have friends over and be like, here, hold my bag of rocks, see how you feel, tap it a few times. What a fun gift. What a fun thing to have. How many so I've got this big bag, and tell us about how we should go about using it. So I've got this big bag. We've so far been sleeping with it, and then during the day we carry it into the office with us and feel good having it near us, or we're touching it. Um, how would someone take the small bag and put it in their pocket and just walk around all day, or their purse or their car? How Tell us how to maximize the usage of the EMF rocks.
Yeah, so definitely on emfrocks.com, we have the full size grounding bag, which is about 1 pound bag of crystal. Then we have a mini grounding bag that's about 2 to 3 ounces that you put in your purse, your pocket, or a kid's backpack for on the go protection. So I carry it in my pocket. I put my phone on the outside of it. So that's the best way to carry it. It's great for a purse. You can do the mobile Faraday bag with your phone in it. So if a woman's carrying a purse and they have it over their shoulder, and their phone would essentially be resting about at their liver area, they could do one or both. They could have their phone inside of a mobile Faraday bag, or and that would be a more of a shield protection. But then to create a coherence, they would have to do it through uh, actually going on and having a mini grounding bag with them as well.
Okay, so it's good to have a mini grounding bag to carry around with you. What about in the car? Should we have one in the car? So
Yeah,
what if they have an electric car? Like
7 grounding bags behind the driver.
7.
Seven. It's just like
Oh my
clearing a 2,000 square
gosh.
foot house. Yes. So I could literally write a dissertation on driving an electrical car, and how bad it is for us and the environment, and how much of a storytelling that they've hoodwinked us on. Hey, let's invent a vehicle that we want to reduce the usage of electricity. Let's say it's better for the environment, but you have to use more of that electrical grid to use the vehicle. Just right out of the gates, there's just zero merit behind it. And then we're using coal, cadmium, mining precious minerals, using way more of the coal to manufacture them. It doesn't get more efficient when you drive it. You get 18% lower testosterone. I mean, this whole concept behind an electric car is crazy, and the amount of wattage that it uses to charge the thing is
Mhm.
extensive. So, I mean, I could go down and talk about this whole topic for literally hours. It's that bad of a deal.
It's like 12 years of pollution to make one car battery for an electric vehicle. The amount of mining that they have to do, it's just pillaging the earth. And it's in these countries where there's child labor, and the the horrible pollution caused by everything they do to get the materials to make these cars. It's such a scam.
Oh, and
I
then
mean, I
they,
love the
yeah,
concept. I love the concept of like, oh, imagine a world where we're just clean energy, right? And I want that. I want clean energy. I'd love it if we lived 100% off of, I don't know, biothermal or something like that didn't have any negative effects on us whatsoever, on our health. And this isn't a political issue. I don't care if you're on the left or the right or the middle or up or down. I don't care what like political spectrum, whether you're a flat earther or globe person or whatever. I, this is not about that there's global warming, because I'm like, let's just not even go there, because it's politicized on purpose to keep us all fighting amongst ourselves.
right.
We can agree on one thing. 100% of everyone listening could sit here and agree on one thing. Pollution is not healthy for us. Now, how do we go about diminishing toxic pollution in our air and our water and our soil? That's another thing. But manufacturing something that causes more pollution in order to make less pollution, it's not there yet.
And you're left with all these batteries. I mean, what happens to the batteries? They just a flashlight battery, a power drill battery. Those, they don't last for very many years. What about the solar batteries and panels and then electric car batteries? They're filling up our landfills with acid, with dead batteries. So you have all the waste on top of the toxicity from the mining portion. Then, but the worst part is it's so bad for our health, is sitting on that battery. You have all the new cars, they have all it's 7 computers in every car at least. So you have a lot of electricity. And then now you have all this dirty electricity from that massive battery covering across the entire floorboard. And then you have all the self-driving capabilities. So all the wireless. So you have all three: the electricity, magnetic resonance, dirty electricity, and wireless, all of those three at the highest level. And you're literally cooking yourself and families. And kind of to your point about your friends not being able to sit in a car, I can't sit in an electric car. My body aches. There's too much resonance in
Mm.
there. I can feel that. And these are the things that most people, unless you're sensitive, feel. Like our bodies, the sounds that they make. I mean, this is crazy. So when that thing's making noise, when it's going forward or reversing or charging, these are the noises that our bodies hear, and the sounds that our bodies hear, plants hear, pets and animals hear. Most humans can't hear that bandwidth. But when I live in Laguna Beach, when I go into our cove, into the ocean, and go underwater, frequencies they travel so well underwater. You can hear them. So I can hear when there's a dolphin in our cove. I can hear when the whales are swimming by our cove. And when there's an electric foil board, Ashley, it's like noise pollution. It's like someone put it on a static radio station and turned the volume up when I go underwater. It's so crazy. And from Arthur Furstenberg's work, he's saying they want to have entire Internet of Things in the ocean to protect us from tsunamis or whatever. That would kill the entire marine life. So we got to really understand the ramifications of electrifying our atmosphere and our environment at the levels that we're doing it. We're seeing a lot of people got really sick from it, and keep getting sick from every notch above it. And I feel it's directly correlated from all the work that all these incredible docs that we've talked to have shared about the environment and us and how we're one with it. And when you pollute it, like, hey, I go into a smoke-filled casino and I don't smoke, like my body's going to say, hey, you're going to adapt to that. So that's essentially how our body works. When you get in these polluted environments, we adapt. But yeah, there's only so much of this we can take. We're already connected. They don't need 5G in third world country. They don't even have electricity in remote areas, in the oceans, mountains, deserts, forests, pristine areas, third world countries. They don't even have electricity. Why do they need full surveillance and 5G and all that? They don't. They're marketing to sell us stuff, to track, trace, I feel, as well, and to make us sicker quicker. So these aren't always enhancing. There's so much benefit we can get from certain products of it, but I really want everyone to learn what the stressors are, develop proximity protocols to them, and then get grounded by nature and use technology, not let technology use us. Like, get out of this meta universe. Like, everyone wants to have a smart device on their wrist and say, oh, I did so many steps, or oh, I slept good, or oh, it's time to eat, or whatever, or I got this great workout in. Listen to your body, connect to God, and listen to your body and how it feels. You'll know so much more. I don't wear a watch. I know what time it is pretty much to about 15 minutes, like all day, every day, even when I wake up in the morning by looking outside. Like, I know exactly what time it is. So listen to your body, get connected, and your vitality, your health, your performance, all of it will exponentially increase.
I want to go back to because you really quickly went over some major things. I want to go back to the pH changes. Um, to hold a bag of rocks or tap a bag of rocks, something that many of us, I'm sure, are kind of laughing at. I know the skeptic in me is like, ha ha ha, you really, man, you're a good salesman. You figure out how to make me hold a bag of rocks. Um, to hold a bag of rocks and have your pH change is phenomenal. pH is the measurement of the loose hydrogen, right? The loose hydrogen molecules floating around bombarding. So to have lower pH is a way of measuring like the lowered oxidative stress, right? We want to be slightly alkaline. We don't want to be slightly acidic, because there's a big difference between the two. Cancer lives in cancer thrives and loves an environment in our body that's leaning towards the acidic side. And most cells, the homeostasis is slightly on the alkaline side. And if you can do something without putting anything into your body to change your pH. I know with the Platinum Energy System Ionic Foot Spa, we do a pH of our saliva before and after, and all you're doing is drinking water. You're not eating anything, but it takes 30 minutes of that machine, and it will lower you'll make your pH go into healthy ranges from slightly acidic to slightly alkaline. That's like a 30-minute, foot spa where it's removing heavy metals and lactic acid and other things from the body. And what I love about the bag of EMF rocks is it's not plugged into anything. It's not technology. It's literally what God made us. It's God made us this earth. Here, have a bag of earth. Uh, and I can feel it. Man, I'm holding it and I can feel it. So tell us just a little bit more. Can you talk a bit more about the pH change?
Yeah. Well,
in terms of using this?
Yeah, definitely, Ashley. When you tap on it, so let me talk about the tapping first. The tapping is huge because when you grab a homeopathic tincture, what do you typically do? Is they say, hey, tap on it, activate it
Yep.
to activate the molecules inside of it. That's what you're doing with the grounding bags. When you grab it, you tap on it, you're going to start to wake up the properties in there. You could kind of squeeze it, tap on it, and that'll excite the molecules in there to say, hey, naturally do what you're supposed to do and create a coherence. And when you create that coherence, what's going to change in your body are all the different marker changes at the cellular level. So when inflammation goes down, free radicals go down, that acidity level will start to change because you get out of the sympathetic nervous system state. When you're in fight or flight, you're acid as can be, like acidic, like crazy. So when you get back into the parasympathetic, the rest, digest, heal, that area where you can start to sleep and get in those restorative sleeps, your body's more in a homeostasis. So the body's going to show that in the chemistry of it. It's directly correlated from the energy field of your body. You can't have chemistry without energy. So it's all from the environment. And so when you can get grounded by nature outside or tap on the bags to create that resonance inside, your body's going to adapt. And then you're going to see less and less of the symptoms. You won't be as nervous. You won't be as anxious. You won't be as stressed. Like literally, it's such a great calming. You made the comment that you want to just hug the bag the whole time. And that just really says that your body's wanting to ground a lot more. And that's the benefit of the product. It'll help ground. Now, some other more severe symptom, like a non-trauma concussion symptom, would be like level 2 EMF toxicity. So they would have nausea, vomiting, and rashes on the skin, seizures, they'll grind their teeth down to nothing. I've seen that with clients where their head of the bed has been on the other side of 2 smart meters. They live in a front and back end unit in CDM. The one kid has seizures, the other one in the same room, grind their teeth to nothing. It was unbelievable. And the mom's like, we're organic, we're holistic. How does this happen? I'm like, well, this kid was sleeping on the other side of 2 smart meters. So, that's radiation. So anyhow, we got to look at that environment and how it affects our body.
Yeah, that's huge. And again, invisible. You can't see it. You can't see the EMF exposure, and therefore you just don't know how much you're being exposed to or how much it's affecting your day-to-day life until you do something like earthing and grounding and you go, "Holy crap. I can't believe it." Like, I can't believe my husband did not snore for the last few nights because we had a bag of rocks by his head. Like,
Well,
I'm never not sleeping with this bag of rocks.
I can't claim that it helps with snoring. That's
I
from what you
can.
guys. I'll take it, but that's news to us. So, and that's great. I think definitely getting into the more lucid dreams will really is what we see and hear a lot of, and how when you're in such a deeper state, maybe the breathing's just easier. I guess I don't know if that's happening. So
Yeah, I
I
don't know. He definitely said he was in much deeper sleep, and I
yeah
thought that was really cool. Uh, he actually now he's the kind of guy that he's always out of bed before I am. He just bounces out of bed. He needs less hours of sleep seemingly than I do. But since we've had this bag, he's slept deeper, he slept longer, and I think he's getting more of the rest his body actually needs. That's
yeah
really neat. And even
love it.
the other day, I said, "It's okay. I'll get up and start making breakfast. You stay in bed." And that's I don't think ever happened in 15 years of marriage. So,
Wow.
um, it's definitely calming his nervous system. Yeah, yeah, that's right. You said this helps to get us out of that fight or flight mode. Well, it's totally doing that with my husband. And I've just noticed I'm more motivated, happy, like clear-headed, more get up and go, like pep in my step. So that's how reducing the EMF and grounding myself with this bag of rocks has done to me. So I guess it affects you differently depending on what how the EMF stress is affecting you, right? And how being ungrounded or having excess electrons, having that excess voltage in the body, how is it affecting you when you remove it, get back to your natural state? How do you feel at your natural state? And right now I feel motivated, happy. My husband's more relaxed and sleeping better. So, and not snoring because he goes into deep sleep. So it's so cool.
Yeah.
LearnTrueHealth.com/EMF rocks. Of course, the link to everything that we talked about today is going to be in the show notes of today's podcast at LearnTrueHealth.com. Justin, is there anything you didn't get to say or anything you'd like to say to wrap up today's show?
I'm just so grateful for you having me on, Ashley. Thank you so much for your awareness and your voice to help so many. It's awesome. I want everyone to lean in on their healing journey, to look to nature, to get grounded by nature. It's free. Go outside, touch a tree, get barefoot, jump into a body of water, get into nature, breathe that resonance, get in the sunlight. It's healthy for you. It's good for you. And when you're inside, turn your electricity off at night. Get a timer on
Mm.
the Wi-Fi router. If you have Wi-Fi, hardwire is best. But if you have it, get it on it. Get an electrician to get a switch on your electrical panel to turn the electricity off in your bedroom at night when you're sleeping. So the resonance of your bedroom is as close to nature as possible. That's what we want. That's what we want to bring into our home and our life. And when we can do that, everything's going to be so much better in your world.
Love it. Love it. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And if you have any more studies or results or science or anything more in the future you want to come back on and share, we'd love to have you back.
Thank you, Ashley.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode with Justin. It was amazing, the things we talked about, and all those other episodes that I referenced. They'll also be linked in the show notes of today's podcast at learntruehealth.com. So you'll be able to jump into those show notes once this episode is on learntruehealth.com, and you'll be able to listen to them as well. Remember to check out learntruehealth.com/EMF rocks. That's learntruehealth.com/EMF rocks. Not because EMF rocks, but we want to get rid of the EMF with the rocks. And you can use coupon code LTH to get the listener discount. Have yourself a fantastic rest of your day.